John's dead. No, he's not dead. No, he's not dead. No, he's not dead. No, he's not. He's not dead. And we're gonna... I'm so excited! Hello, everybody. My name is Sophia.
And I'm Carly.
And this is You Got a Game of Thrones podcast. Today is the day, guys. Today is the day we chat, you and I, chat about what happened in Season 6, Episode 2, Home, which is one of the best episodes I've watched in the last 2 years.
Easily. It was one of my favorite of all time Game of Thrones episodes.
It's no Watchers on the Wall, it's no Blackwater, but I think it's definitely in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Because he's back!
He's back!
He's back! Jon Snow is alive. They brought him back. We don't know how. We don't know why. We're gonna dig right into that. And of course, this episode made me feel like the whole spectrum of emotions over that 55 minutes. And I think that we watched it together, as we always do. And we both really felt like we yelled and we screamed and it was a very vocal episode to watch, which is normal.
We scared Spencer.
I think we definitely scared our friend we were watching with. And
yes.
Of course we're going to get to the beard rating, but before that, because I off the bat just want to give it a great rating, but I do want to dig in a little bit and find some things we liked and some things we didn't like. So let's just go through the episode. And one thing I think, I had this mindset, after the episode finished, I was like, man, maybe this episode was good because Dany wasn't in it. And I know that's a horrible thing to say, but man, she's just moving more slowly than she's ever moved before. And so it was really nice to sort of just pick up the pace and watch an episode where we really didn't see characters again.
Yeah.
They were only in it once.
That's really true, actually. And, what I liked about this episode, too, is there was never a slow moment.
No.
And not in a bad way. It wasn't rushed. There was never a moment where you felt bored, or there was never a Dorne moment.
There was never a Dorne, because Dorne wasn't in it either.
Dorne wasn't. See, that might be one of the reasons why this episode was so great. Correlation.
Weird how that works out. I don't know. It seems like they might be setting Dany up to take Vice Dothrak over, but, I don't even get why she would do that. We're waiting for her to get to Westeros, and if she doesn't get there, it's just it's like moving in sludge. It's like she's walking through sludge, and it's just boring to watch. And I would much rather
starting again at the same place that we saw it start in season 1. I'm
right.
I don't really want to see any of that happen again.
It's a repeat.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm totally 100% with you. So, but let's focus on the episode at hand. Obviously, Dany's going to be in the next one. She's going to be in it on Sunday, but let's focus on the episode at hand, Home, or should I say the episode that made everybody crap their pants in more ways than one. And obviously, you and I are recording it. It's been a few days. We're sorry about that. I've been asked a few times. They're like, "Where's the podcast? Where's the podcast?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, guys. We just had to wrap our head around this episode, and also we've had to work." We have to work. Sorry. That is our life.
If this could be our full-time job, this would
be our full-time job, but alas. We have to put food on the table and buy cat food and dog food.
It's
for our various animals. All right. So let's talk about the highlights. Carly, there were so many highlights. I boiled mine down to 3, maybe 4 if you don't say one of them, but I think you and I are going to have some similar highlights. So let me hear yours.
Oh, man. Okay. So, this is, the hardest question, too, because the entire episode was such a highlight.
I know.
Oh, my God. It was so good. And, one of the things I loved is that, the big Jon reveal at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it obviously, it was huge, and we screamed. And
it's not on my highlights list, though.
Yes, but, I don't know. It was nice because there were so many other huge things that happened in this episode that were equally noteworthy. Maybe not equally, because let's be honest.
He's the main character. Yeah.
It's Jon Snow.
He's Jon Snow. Let's be real here, people.
Let's be honest with ourselves and everybody else. Anyway, yes. Okay, highlights.
Highlights.
I really, really freaking enjoyed the Tyrion scene with the dragons. I thought that was significant, and it was from I don't know, a more analytical standpoint, it was very significant in many ways, but it was also freaking badass. It was so freaking cool to see this character who loves dragons as much as Tyrion and as much as I do, to see him actually be able to interact with these things. And I mean, it was so good.
I 100% agree. That is on my list. Tyrion's and the dragons, when he said a small one, just like me, oh man, when that whole scene, I mean, Peter Dinklage is in award show territory once again. For sure, because the way he delivered that monologue in front of a green screen with, floating tennis balls, and he made you feel so many things in that short amount of time. Plus, Rhaegar and Viserion are becoming characters. We don't just have Drogon, who has just been around and has been freed up until this moment, and he's been in a lot of it. But Viserion and Drogon have been stuck and trapped, and so I think it's really beautiful.
It's like animal abuse. Like, Sarah McLachlan is, like, playing in the background.
Peeta's very unhappy.
It's so sad. It's animal. It's bad.
It's so bad. And I think that it really, this scene, this tiny little scene just brought both of them to life when Viserion sees that Tyrion frees Rhaegar and then just sort of allows him to do it. That just, wow, they didn't have to do that. He could have tried and gone up and done it and it would have been fine, but seeing them understand him and sort of accept him other than Dany is so important. He's the father of dragons. I don't know if that's a term that people are loving, but he or the uncle or something. Like, especially if they're related.
Yes, and that's it, and we will get into that.
We will get to that later. But yes, I 100% agree.
Yes. And I do think that was kind of a big deal is the fact that they did show that, dragons aren't just mindless beasts, because I feel like there were some episodes where it kind of leaned towards that being like, you can never tame them, which is true, but it doesn't mean that they're mindless killing machines.
Right.
So that's kind of a big deal too. It's kind of showing what they can be, like how they can understand.
And especially if Tyrion has Viserion and Rhaegar on his team, like, he is gonna be fine. If we were worried about Tyrion surviving the Game of Thrones, I don't think we should be worried anymore if he has dragons. I don't know. Yeah. So I totally 100% agree. That was one of my highlights, too. I will say another one of my highlights was the flashback in the beginning. Yes. It's setting up for the flashback in Sunday's episode, which is going to be the Tower of Joy, which I'm so excited about. But just seeing... There was just something about seeing Winterfell as it used to be. It just, like, sort of, oh my god, it made me feel just so sad, but also, like, wow, they actually used to be happy. Shocking that Ned used to be, like, a happy kid with, with Benjen, who we haven't seen in forever, and I don't know, I just loved seeing it, and then Lyanna showing up, I lost everything during that moment. It was just so beautiful.
Lyanna showing up was like, that was mind-blowing to me. Like, that was so freaking cool. I don't know. It was like seeing a flashback in this show is very much like seeing a myth.
Yes.
Visualized, because
they're confirming the myths that have been sort of questioned. Like, we're like, everybody's like, R + L = J, I don't know, but they show Lyanna, and they're doing the Tower of Joy, and they're showing Arthur Dayne. I don't know, I'm just really, and Lyanna, like, looked so beautiful and young, and Ned and Lyanna seemed to work really well together, and little Benjen, and Hodor, who was Willis,
who can
talk, which is just I have a Hodor theory later on that I'm going to talk about, and it's going to break your heart, I think.
Suspense. I'm so excited.
But yeah, so the Winterfell, and seeing Bran again, my baby, like my little precious prince. Even just for a scene, it's okay. It's all I needed. So that flashback scene, 100% was one of the highlights for me.
Well, I love that both he and Arya are really getting some hard lessons taught to them, because Arya is obviously getting beat with a stick in like every episode now.
Exactly. Whoops.
And again, it's to be it's a teaching tool in a really harsh way, but like it's a teaching tool. And then with Bran too, like he's pulled out of this memory. So he doesn't get lost into it, basically, and he takes it as a cruelty, but it's like, no, man, like...
Yeah, the Three-Eyed Raven is like, yeah, it's beautiful under there, but you'll drown if you stay for too long, and it's so true, It's so true, and I'm hoping that he won't make that mistake.
I don't think he will, but yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, so what about another one of yours, your second highlight?
I feel like I need to just go Jon.
Go Jon. That's not one of mine, so talk about Jon.
That's perfect.
We'll talk about Jon later, but I mean, there was nothing quite compared to you. I mean, the minute they cut back to his body, you knew there was gonna be something. You were just like, okay, this is the moment. This is the moment where they're either going to confirm it, or it's never going to happen, or it's going to happen at the end of the season. Which
is so crazy, because him waking up, like, I mean, like timeline wise, it makes sense that it wouldn't have been at the end of the season, because he would have been like kind of a gross zombie who like was getting eaten by bugs and stuff by then, and that wouldn't be great to see him come back like that. But also, I mean, I don't know, it was so early in the season, and I did not expect it to be like, oh, hey, like, welcome to the season, guess who's back?
Yes, you know what, and I wrote a huge thing about this, and I was going to put it to your theory section, but I think it actually, it fits better here, and, like, you know, my hope now that they brought him back is that they'll do something other than he comes back to life with a fear of dying again. You know, but I highly doubt they're not going to do that because that's what Kit Harington has said. The thing about Game of Thrones is that if you have a theory about it, it's probably wrong. Unless it's R plus L equals J.
Never trust.
You can never trust. Yeah. R plus L equals J was there in the books. Like, that's a very... the stuff that we don't see coming, that's what's shocking. You know, the Sansa stuff... Any of those weird murders that come right out of the blue. But, like, if we really dig into the theories, the show tends to err away from that. So, like, while we'd love to see Jon as the bad guy or warged into Ghost or have Ghost's mind a part of him, it just doesn't seem logical that they would do that. You know? I doubt that they will. I think it's going to be something, but I think it's going to be more that he's just afraid to die again.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, too. It's hard to say because, like, first of all, I will never trust anything Kit Harington says again because I love that after this episode, he was literally like, I'm sorry I lied to everyone. I'm sorry, I didn't think anybody would care. I'm sorry. And you're literally the most popular, guy. You're literally one of the most popular guys on TV right now. Of course they won't kill you off. I don't know, like, getting back to what I was saying, like, the theories about Jon, either, like, Kyle's theory about him being the big bad, you know, like, at the end of the day, I feel like that would get old, and so if we're playing more mind games, and if we have Jon with a little bit of PTSD, it's easier, like, because that's why they brought him back so quickly, because no one really wants him dead. Like, even though he's broody and really doesn't know, like, anything, he's an attractive guy who's somehow connected to the Night's King, and so even for people that might not like him, they're at least drawn to him. And that's why after he died, he was the poster of season 6, you know? It's the worst kept secret of all time that he was coming back to life. Oh, it's the worst kept secret of all time. Like, there was no doubt in anyone's mind that, like, he was coming back.
Right, exactly. We all know it.
It's an exciting moment, but it was like, this is, like, so happy. This is not a surprise. Like,
no, not at all. And, like, and that's why I wish they had pushed it back. Let him be dead for a while. Let us get used to the fact that he is gone, and then rip that semblance of normalcy away. You know, bring him back as an undercover villain, or bring him back as not Jon, as a different character. Like, it seems so, I don't know, it almost seems vanilla to bring him back this soon. And I know that, like, I'm judging before I'm watching, and wow, like I said, we were so excited when he took a breath and opened his eyes.
Oh my God,
but, like, give us something we've never seen before. Like, if this is a high that we're feeling, like, let us ride it out. Let us feel something else.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think also, though, it does kind of fall in line with what the show was doing last season, which was a lot of shock value stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like bringing him back this early, like, they better have a really good reason for doing it because it's really exciting. Like, it's very exciting for him to come back, but it's kind of like, now what? Like, where can you go from here?
Where are you going? Like, are they going to have Ramsay attack the wall? Is that really what they're going to do? Is the newest, is the new big fight, the next big fight going to be at the wall? Like, that sort of seems what they're heading toward. Everybody seems to be aiming for the wall now because that's where Jon is. So
yeah,
it's like,
that's kind of true. Everyone is going to the
wall.
I love that. It's like, the Iron Throne's this way. No, we're all going to the wall.
Like, hey ho, to the wall we go. Or whatever that song is, you know? To the wall. I don't know. I tried. But it's still, I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited, but I'm also nervous about Jon.
Yes.
And that's why I didn't put it as one of my highlights in that. But I think you'll get into a little bit more why you were so excited about it in the theory section, because that does bring about a bunch of exciting theories. Lots of things. So my second or third, I guess, and I'll put in a fourth. My second favorite highlight was Ramsay killing Ruse.
Yes, that was mine. That was
100%. Like, from the moment that he said, "You have a son," there was just this change that sort of happened in that episode. Watching it a second time, I was like, ooh, wow, that's really poignant. When you know what's coming, you notice the change that you and the actor that plays Ramsay sort of brings about. And you know, it was so, what I loved about this moment was that it was unclear for about a second there. You weren't sure which one of them was stabbed. You were like, wait, which one just died? Of course it's Ruse. But, like, he died. Ruse Bolton is dead. And I didn't feel sadness. I just felt satisfaction. I was like, thank you, finally. Even though this is a safer bet, this is a safer villain, I loved every single minute of him dying and bleeding out on the floor. Like, this is the guy who betrayed and murdered Catelyn Stark and her son. And all the stuff. Like, and he's dead. Betrayed by his own flesh and blood. And I loved it. I loved it. I actually appreciate Ramsay as a villain now. Which I never thought would happen.
It was kind of like that one little moment where you can be like, oh my god, Ramsay, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right?
Like,
and he's so crazy that, and I'm going to get into in a different section, we're going to talk about the Ramsay and, Fat Walda and the son and the brother. But we're not going to talk about that right now. I just want to talk about how Roose Bolton is dead. And it's freaking fantastic. He's not a vampire. He's not living a long time. He's gone.
I really would have liked him to be a vampire.
I would have loved that too. It would have been really good.
Well, so that was another thing that was just so surprising in that episode, but not in a bad way, was that death happening did not, if it was going to happen, I would not have expected it to happen until at least mid-season, maybe end of the season. No, not at all. Because that was another really big thing. Like, this episode had the feeling of being like an episode 8 or 9.
I think this is crazy. It's like, this is what we were looking for the premiere.
Yes.
Or for a finale.
Exactly.
It's what we were waiting for in the premiere, but the premiere was so expository and such a setup episode that we really needed that. If we would have felt things for sure, but if we hadn't known the struggle that Melisandre was going through when she possibly brought Jon back to life, it wouldn't be as intense if we didn't know all this stuff between Ramsay. Like, Ramsay and Roose have been butting heads more and more, and they butt heads in the first episode, so you wouldn't know that there's this they're walking on thin ice with each other. And so that first episode was so important, and it just brought this second episode to a whole new level. In season 6, God, I hope the next episode is just as good. And it looks that way. I mean, but like, I just loved it. I loved Roose's death. I'm so happy about it.
It was so good. And like you said, I really love how you cannot tell at first. Like, you're like, who just died?
You're like, which one? Which one did it?
There would be no way of knowing.
No, and you and I both looked at each other and we're like, what? What happened? Which one? And then when Bruce fell to the ground, we're like, oh, of course it was Ruse. Of course Ramsay killed his father. But, man.
I was surprised, actually.
Really?
Yes, I wasn't surprised that he did it. I was a little bit surprised that, I don't know, I guess when it first happened, like, I was like, oh, Ruse just killed Ramsay. Like, of course he did.
Of course he got rid of the problem, yeah.
Yeah, like, because, but, I mean, I would have been more disappointed if that happened. Like, I'm so happy with the fact that Ramsay has gone full metal, like, psycho on us. And not that he wasn't before, but now, yeah.
I love it. I'm so excited. There's nothing, like, now that Stannis is gone, I'm not rooting for anybody to take over the Iron Throne. I'm sort of just like, let Westeros go to shit. Like, I don't care anymore. All my characters besides, like, if Davos will know, he goes, oh, this is all getting, like, too much. I'm just gonna step out. Like, that's all I want Davos to go over to Braavos and just be safe and happy and just let Westeros crumble.
Oh my god, I want Davos to be like the guy who was like, I really want to go on this new cruise. It's called the Titanic, but I don't think I'm going to do it.
I'm not going to do that.
It's inconvenient. I'm kind of busy. And then, like, a week later or whatever, it's like, oh man.
The Titanic just sank. And he's like, yeah, I just kept my hands clean. Like, I don't know. I love it. I just want Davos to go over and meet up and pick up Tyrion and pick up Varys along the way and just go over to have a good time in Braavos while all of Westeros just sort of falls apart at their as they watch. Like, that would just be, I would love that.
He could just sit and eat mutton for the rest of his days.
He loves mutton.
He loves mutton.
Davos, I'll make you mutton. Come to the States. And through time and space.
And reality.
And get a TARDIS while you're at it, because otherwise it'll never work. I gotta say, that was just, back to the Ramsay killing verse as one of my highlights, that was just 100%. I think that was my highlight of the whole episode. Like, if we're being honest, I think, I think listeners might be like, I think she's lost her mind. But I think once I explain how I feel about Ramsay now, it'll make more sense. So do you have another highlight you want to throw in? Because I took one of yours.
I mean, those are really my main ones. Like, the only other thing I think I'd say is, it's nice seeing Melisandre really defeated, and that we got even more of that in this episode of her just being like, I don't know if this is gonna work. Like,
she's so given up. Yeah.
And like, not only given up, she was doubting herself, which she had never really done before. Mm-mm. She was just like, yeah, I'm the red leg. It's fine.
She's like, the night is dark and full of terrors.
Yeah, the night is dark and full of terrors.
You can't mess with me.
But yeah, it's been nice to see her struggle.
I would definitely agree with that, like 100%.
Biggest disappointment, though, I will say I have one disappointment, and it's still that she didn't
bang his body. You like that dead body sex, don't you?
I won't let it go.
It's okay, Carly. You can feel that. I had one more highlight, and this is a very small moment. It happens off to the side, but it's when Sansa and Brienne touch base about Arya. That was just a really beautiful way of reminding you that, oh, by the way, a lot of these characters are related and have met each other and know each other. And I just loved Sansa being able to know, once again, where her sister is and that she's alive. There's just something beautiful about that. There was something really lovely about the way that happened. It was so quiet and so off to the side, but it was perfect.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It was just a wholeheartedly perfect scene. And then Theon leaves to go to Pike, which is a perfect, actually, segue into Pike. If you have no more highlights, I'll get right into that.
You go for it, girl.
For me, there were no lowlights of this episode. There was nothing that I thought was not necessary. There was no sort of extraneous detail that I didn't like. I thought every single scene was beautifully put together and made sense for the episode. My only fear is that most people didn't appreciate Pike, like the reintroduction of Pike and the return of the Greyjoys. Maybe this is because, like, people didn't read the books or they haven't kept up with the news, but, like, most people won't know who pushed Balon Greyjoy off of the bridge. I mean, yes, he says brother almost as much as Hodor says Hodor, but, like, if I were like, okay, who just pushed Balon off, you'd be like, his brother, and I'd be like, okay, who? And you'd be like, I have no idea. And so that was like
who was related to him.
Yes, someone who is related to him, a lot younger than him. I don't know. So I'm a little worried that people might not have liked the introduction to Pike. So I want to know what you think about that. As a non-book reader, how did you like seeing Asha / Yara again and seeing Balon and just experiencing it? How do you feel?
I don't know. I really liked the scene visually. It was really pretty and really cool to watch, but
visually,
I did not remember anything about Pike. I didn't remember the characters. I was excited because you were excited. Like, you were like, oh, it's Pike. I was like, yes, it is that place that you said. So I don't know. I am excited to see where they take it in the show for people who are kind of like me and are like, where is this place?
What's happening? Why do we care about them when we don't really care about Theon?
Right,
that kind of thing.
We care a little more now, but it's kind of more like
I totally get it. So, just to sort of clarify, the guy that murders his brother, his name is Euron.
Yes.
And he's a Greyjoy, and he's a pirate, essentially, and he is very feared. And it is said that so he's like a super feared dude, like big time. That's why he says, like, every time I sail up, they fear me, and he's an awesome dude. And I think they combined his character with another character, with another one of the brothers, which is Victarion, because I don't think Victarion's going to be in it. But Euron is this wildly unpredictable guy in the books, and he loves playing mind games and raging psychological warfare, and he's hated by his brothers for that exact reason. And he's also a skilled manipulator and a cunning, shrewd, ruthless leader. And his nickname is the Crow's Eye. But I don't know that they're going to do that because he wears a patch over his left eye in the books. And I don't know if they did that in the show. I don't think that they did.
That's interesting that his name is the Crow's Eye, though. Just because there's such a theme in the show with, like, the three-eyed raven, and I know crows and ravens are two different things. But,
but still, Jon Snow's a crow.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So, and there's a whole theory that in the books, Euron is actually Daario Naharis. That's one of the theories in the books, is that Euron can actually change his face. He's one of, like, I don't know if he's the faceless men or one of the faceless men, but he can change his face just like the faceless men can, and he's actually Dario. Because his whole thing is that he wants to somehow find Daenerys and find the dragons. That's like his whole thing in the books. He sends Victarion out to find Daenerys and the dragons. That's like his whole theme in the book. So we're gonna see what he does in the show. I have no idea. I really liked the actor. I liked the introduction. I'm so happy he killed Balon, because I have laughed over Balon's death in the books 1,000 times over. All he does is fall off.
Yeah.
In the books, he just falls off. But, I mean, he could have been murdered. It could have been a murder. We don't know that. So I'm actually really happy with the introduction of Euron as a book reader and as someone who actually really likes the Greyjoys. Because most people don't like the Greyjoys.
Yeah, because we haven't really had a reason to. Like, up until now, it's kind of like, well, they're there too.
Yeah.
And they have a really cool sigil, but they don't
really care about them that much.
Don't really care. I like that they're the Kraken.
Yeah, and I like Yara. The whole idea of the Kingsmoot is really exciting. So instead of doing like what every other place in Westeros does, where the next of kin becomes the leader, they do a Kingsmoot instead, where everybody comes together and votes for a new king. And so Yara / Asha, she's Asha in the books, I don't know. Yara, she wants to be the first female on the Salt throne, and Euron is like, that's gonna be me. And the man she was talking to about it is actually Aaron, who is another one of the Greyjoy brothers. So Aaron is related to Euron and Balon and Victarion. So there's 4 of them. But
we need like a family tree.
We do need a family tree, but Victarion's not in it, so we don't care about him.
Okay, good.
Just, all you have to remember, and Balon's dead, so all you have to remember is Euron and Aaron.
That's all. I like that.
Euron and Aaron. Aaron is a priest, and Euron is someone. And we're not sure yet what he is.
Or no one.
Or no one. Oh, that was good.
Yeah,
nicely done. But yeah, that's my only fear. My only fear is that the introduction of Pike wasn't strong enough for people that haven't read the books or care about Pike. But whatever. What you gonna do? Nothing. You can't do anything about it. You just gotta roll it out. I'm riding this high still, guys. I'm really trying here. Like, I'm trying not to be negative for once in my life.
This is the one shining thing.
This is it. This is all I have.
That's all I got.
Just let me be negative. Yeah. But let's hear about your lowlights. Did you have anything that you didn't necessarily enjoy?
It was mainly what I mentioned about Melisandre.
About Melisandre, yeah. I think that's it. I think overall, man, this episode, freaking knocking it out of the park. Like, look at us go.
Really good, and it was like just a really tight episode, and that's one of the things that last season was such a roller coaster, because there were really, really good moments contrasted against really, really just crappy moments that you either do not care about or are like, why is this here? Like, why is this a thing?
Exactly.
Like,
I totally
agree.
I think, yes, and so far this just already seems so much more put together. Like, they know what they're doing a little bit more. They don't have the books anymore, so they're not relying on that. They're sort of just like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. I think they've mapped out what each character is doing and how each character crosses out. Like, I would love to see the writer's room of Game of Thrones right now and how different it is from last season. Because something has changed.
Being on fire with all of them being like, oh god.
It's like in the Community episode. with Troy, the Community episode with Troy going to all of them to the pizzas. You know the one. It's famous.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. I was thinking about that because not about that scene, but now I'm thinking about that scene. But I was thinking about the fact that this season so far, even with the intro episode, everything has seemed very purposeful and very just like refined and tight and just very every scene has a reason to be there. And I feel like the fact that they don't have the books and aren't trying to string in like as many things from the books as possible, while for book readers that kind of might be like a pain, like because you guys did an amazing job reading so many words, because it's been a year since I've been halfway through the first one and I'm still working, but I think that it might be actually an advantage for the show.
I think so too. I think that now that they're realizing that I think the book readers are sort of coming to terms with the fact that they're separate entities now, and it took us a season, it took us a year, but I think we're finally getting there. And I don't know, I just think it all seems more methodical. The way that they've laid everything out, it just makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, I
That's
think so
really
too.
What it
totally.
Is. That's just how it is, you know? And I'm extremely appreciative. I'm extremely appreciative of this episode.
I'm too.
Just, because it makes me trust them again.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Which is funny because it came out of all of these lies of being like, no, he's dead, we promise.
Right. They lied a lot. I know, they lied to us all so many times. Like, so many lies. So many lies.
Oh.
Okay. Let's move on. Highlights, lowlights, done. We loved the episode. There really weren't any lowlights. Let's go on to a new segment just this week, and it's called, Okay, Let's Talk About Ramsay.
Okay, let's talk about Ramsay.
Okay. So, Carly, we watched this scene together. It continues on right after. You get to watch Ramsay brutally murder his father, stab him right in the stomach, and then you get to watch Ramsay, not even 30 seconds later, murder his stepmom and newborn baby brother.
You know, okay, my thoughts on this are that the scene where he murders Ruse is like, that was great, and it was shocking just because he could have done that at any point, really. Like,
oh yeah, anytime.
And so
there wouldn't have been a reason, a cause for it, though.
Right. And so, like, this is, like, that final step, and it's like, okay, like, so that was a cool character shift, I guess, but as terrible as it's gonna sound, when he murdered the newborn and, what's the lady's name?
Fat Walda.
Yeah, exactly. It's so sad.
I know.
Fat Walda. When he murders them, like, I was just like, eh.
I know, you and I reacted exactly the same way.
Yeah.
And I think that's my favorite part of this whole thing, because we didn't get to live tweet it. We couldn't get my cable up and running in time. So we watched it late. And so I didn't get to see the live tweet reactions, but people were freaking out apparently over this. And for me, I just was sitting there, and at that point, I was so happy that Roose Bolton was dead. I was just like, yes, this whole thing is great. I didn't... Yeah. The murder, this brutal murder, this brutal triple murder. I should say the double murder, because the one murder, like, Roose's death made me laugh. This death, I didn't laugh, but I just didn't... Like, I was like, okay, you know, it's didn't bug me at all. Like, at this point, if Ramsay does one thing, it's use his dogs.
Yeah, I know. Like,
you know,
is anybody surprised that, like, literally as soon as Ruse is dead, and they were like, you know, kind of shifting gears to show the newborn and fat lady whose name
Fat Walda. You can just call her Walda.
I want to call her Waldo, which isn't good because that's not her name. But anyway,
and she's dead, so don't call her that.
Lady W. That's good.
Lady W.
Lady Dubs. As soon as that scene happened, I was like, she's gonna get eaten by the dog. Like, they didn't even, like, foreshadow. It was just like, hey, remember the dogs? Remember what he does with the dogs?
Right.
Remember he does a lot of bad stuff with the dogs?
Remember he's just not a good dude? Remember he's just a bad guy, and this is his favorite form of torture? Like,
yes.
Come on. It's not even that it's easy, it's just that it's normal. Of course he's gonna murder his stepmother and newborn brother. They're a threat.
Yeah.
They need to be eliminated. It's almost robotic, like the way he reacts. It's not, you know, he never has emotion. He doesn't feel. Like, I honestly wonder if he's a robot.
That's the plot twist to Game of
Thrones. That is it. There we go. We figured it out.
The Iron Throne is actually a robotic throne. That's why it's called the Iron Throne.
You heard it here. You heard it here first, folks.
That's my theory.
Ramsay Bolton's a robot. Here we go. Just like his father was a vampire, Ramsay Bolton is a robot. You're welcome. Perfect. Yeah, it did not bug me at all. It was just like, yep, this is happening. They didn't show any violence. You hear her scream twice, and then it's just like a little bit of ripping flesh, which could have been anything. So it wasn't, it was more just the act of him doing it. That's what they wanted us to take away. They didn't want us to take away, like, they made a decision not to show her get ripped apart by dogs. They could have shown that. And I almost think
they could have.
They really could. I mean, they've done it before. Yeah, and so I almost think that they wanted us to take away the fact that without even blinking, he did it. But we already know that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's annoying that they kind of did that in the first episode of the season, too, where he's like, oh, like, she was great, you know, throw her to the dogs.
Just
like, even that was like, okay, we get it. Like, he uses the dogs a lot, and he's a really, really bad dude.
Yeah,
like,
when he's like, I'll take you to them, mother. I'll take you to him, mother, and then to the dog kennels. Like, you knew when he said, I'll take you to them, you're like, no, you're not. You're gonna take him to the dog kennels, because that's where you take everybody. Like, it just wasn't, I liked it, and I appreciated it, because it just means he hasn't changed. Nothing will change him.
Yeah.
And now that Miranda's dead, I don't think I think his soul died with her. If he had a soul, like.
I mean, I think he was just. I don't know. I don't think that her death, made him like kind of a more hardcore person because he's a psychopath. I mean, like
definitely he's not a human. He's not a human being. I mean, He is, but like you know what I mean.
Well, he's a robot.
He's a robot. He's a robot, you guys. That's all we can say about it. Like.
The only explanation.
It must be, and I'm looking up. I know that he weighed. So you and Rayan weighed in on the episode and sort of talked about what happened, and the title, the article headline is one of the most disturbing moments from Game of Thrones, and I'm like, is it? Is it? I don't know. I just sort of like. And then he went on to say that Bolton killing his father wasn't entirely without emotional cost. And I'm like, really? I'm not sure about that. I think that he's a complete psychopath. And I don't think that he regrets it at all. So
yes, no regrets.
So, our dear sweet listeners, weigh in. Like, if you think that Ramsay is an actual human being, I want to know.
I would love to know.
I would
like to know about you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, let us, that's true too, but still, that's how I feel about Ramsay. We need to talk, let's talk about Ramsay. That's it. He's doing what he normally does. It's not heinous, it's not anything, because we're used to it at this point.
Classic Ramsay.
Hashtag classic Ramsay. Perfect.
I love it.
All right, moving on. Carly, you have some theories about our dear sweet Jon Snow.
I do.
Do you want to just take us on a ride?
I would love to. I would so love to do that.
I would love that too.
Aw, thanks.
Yeah.
This episode was crazy, like on multiple levels, but for me it was the craziest because there were 3 scenes, because we had discussed 2 of them, but I thought about it again. There were 3 scenes in one episode that all kind of hinted to Jon's true lineage, and a couple other characters' true lineage too. But the main theory that we've talked about a lot, and that a lot of people know about, book readers and show watchers and both alike, is the you know what I'm talking about.
R plus L equals J.
Yes, I never get that right because a little dyslexia, but yeah, yes.
Rhaegar Targaryen plus Lyanna Stark equals Jon Snow. For anybody that doesn't know that theory, there it is.
It's a great one too.
It's canon. They're gonna prove it. They're gonna prove it on Sunday, and if they don't, I will be shocked.
That will be
That would be the craziest thing they've ever done.
Yeah, genuinely, that will be the craziest thing they've ever done because it's so close to canon now. Like, to change it up, they better have a really good reason for not making that canon.
Like when someone's like Jon's father, I'm like Rhaegar.
Yeah.
Rhaegar, right? Are we talking about Rhaegar here? Oh no, Ned, whatever. You're lying. You're wrong.
You're wrong.
Sorry. Okay, so keep going.
Yes, no. Okay. In this episode, we had the flashback scene with Lyanna and I think it was Ned, Hodor, and not Brendan.
Benjen.
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. So many names in this show.
My favorite. I love Benjen, so I'm a sucker.
Benjen's great. I want to know what happened to him.
You and me both, girl.
Oh, dude.
You and me both.
Someday.
Maybe.
He's part of the robot army that is clearly rising.
When it happens he's part of the robot army. We know it. When it happens in the books, you'll be the first to know. When we find out what happened to Benjen in the books, which I swear to God it's going to happen, I will drop everything and tell you.
Yes.
It'll be a kingdom come. So I'm so excited for it. Okay, so.
Yes. So, in this episode, we had that flashback scene with, several of the main players in the whole Jon lineage theory.
Yep.
Yes. Then we had the scene with Tyrion and the dragons, which was very significant because there is a whole theory that Tyrion is actually a Targaryen.
Right.
And then we had Jon coming back, which, brings him back into the show as we all expected.
Right.
But one of my favorite theories is that the 3 heads of the Targaryen dragon are Tyrion, Jon, and Dany.
Yes.
Which would because that would make them 3 Targaryens. Because Dany we already know is one. Tyrion, I mean, if you look at the scene, like, he's always had this obsession with dragons. His description in the books makes him a lot more akin to a Targaryen than a Lannister.
Yeah.
He's described with much lighter hair, just like the Targaryen, or, yeah, the Targaryens have.
Just as those Targaryens.
Yeah. But, I mean, he has this obsession with dragons, and this scene, and just how well the dragons took to him, and how naturally he behaved with them as well, and how kind of comfortable he was with them, even if he was afraid, that was, like, I mean, they would not have made that scene a thing, or as long as it was, without it being something significant. It wasn't just about him freeing the dragons. There's a lot more going on.
You can tell he's got something going on. He's got something going on, and I think it would. So in the books, I don't see it being as real as I do seeing it in the show. Just because in the books there's another Targaryen already that has not made it into the show at all. So, like, it's who exists, who is covered, like, no one knows about him. He's very hidden. And you learn about him in book 5 or 4.
Oh.
But in the show, I think it's entirely possible, especially with how long that dragon scene went.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and how short it took him, first of all, to get them to trust him. Yes. And secondly, just how important it is to finally see him. He has been, you're right in saying that he's been obsessed with dragons, because he literally has. Like, so, I don't know, I think I could definitely see it happening in the show. And his mom and dad, by the way, they say that he shares a mom with Cersei and Jaime, Joanna, but she was raped by Mad King Aerys Targaryen. So that is the real reason that Tywin hates him so much.
Yeah, I love that too. And that makes the scene where Tyrion kills him
even better.
That would make it so much crazier.
Even better. Even though I love Tywin with all of my heart. I love him so much.
May he rest in peace. Kind of. So yes, like that is what I loved how in this episode, like, you know, big episode in so many ways, but there were literally 3 scenes that, I mean, more or less pointed to that 3-headed dragon theory of, you know, 2 of these people who we know really well actually being Targaryens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that just really pointed to it. And then I was talking to a coworker who was talking about how when Melisandre a couple seasons ago visited the Riverlands, right?
What?
I don't know. She visits somewhere, and she starts kind of alluding to what my coworker said, you know, might be her predicting Arya becoming one of the faceless.
Mm-hmm.
But she says something about brown eyes, blue eyes, and green eyes. And that could have been, you know, talking about Arya changing faces.
Yeah.
But my theory was, maybe that talks about the
three-headed dragon. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Because if you look at her, I think Tyrion has green eyes. I think Daenerys has blue eyes.
She has blue. They talked about it so much in the first episode, and it frustrated me to no end because her eyes are purple in the books.
Yes.
And her hair is silver.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god.
Not white and blue. So frustrating. But Jon has brown eyes. That might have changed color. We don't know.
Yeah, there was that little, like, last scene where it was like, did they turn purple?
We're not sure, but it doesn't make any sense because really the Targaryens don't have purple eyes in the show. It's not canon that they do. So
upsetting.
Who knows? But I love that theory. Those are obviously the top 3 characters in the show, as for sure.
Yes.
That's the characters we follow more than anybody else are Tyrion, Jon, and Dany. So, and it would obviously explain why Jon gets brought back to life quickly. It makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally. And I mean, another thing my coworker mentioned was Dany talking about how she wants to break the wheel. Her being, the other Jon and Tyrion being Targaryens, that immediately breaks the wheel. It completely kind of takes away, I guess, the significance really of the houses and the names because there's such a mixing there.
Yeah, and there's so many of them.
Oh, so many.
Yeah,
everyone's having sex with everybody in this show.
Creating new houses here and there, everywhere we go.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I love that theory. I've never really believed it, but I think that they could definitely pull it off in the show. Not the books, but definitely the show.
Love it.
100%. Yeah, and okay, so do you have any other theories about Jon?
Did I? I think that was it.
That was it? So I want to talk a little bit, not a lot, but I want to talk a little bit about, do you think that Melisandre brought him back to life?
Ooh. Yeah, because he looks different. Mm-hmm. Not just because of the haircut, because that is different. But
which we both had a moment when she was cutting his hair and trimming his beard. We were like, no.
Our priorities were a little wrong. It was like, why would you do that?
No, he doesn't get a haircut on screen. It was I loved it. We were both so just like, no, she can't cut his hair. It's got a contract. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder about that a lot, just because I think, clearly he is back and he is alive, but how much of him is there, I guess? And
right, and we don't know anything about it.
Like, at what cost?
Right, and so I wonder, so Kit Harington has said that he was dead and he experienced death, and when he comes back, he has this fear of never wanting to die again, but if he does die, he doesn't want to come back to life, get brought back. But my hope is that somehow maybe Ghost had something to do with it. Like, I don't know how, but Jon wasn't dead for that long. If we really think about it, he was. For us, he was dead for a year. But for them, season 6 picks up right after season 5. So he's dead for maybe a total of 24 to 28 hours. Yeah, he's not dead a long time. There is every possibility that he could have warged into Ghost and just sort of existed, but been in a dog or in a wolf's mind instead of a human mind, which is really weird, probably, and strange. Yeah. And that's how he could have come back, or he and Ghost could have been splitting it, or something like that. I just don't think that Melisandre was strong enough to bring him back necessarily. She seemed so just put out by not succeeding. She did not believe in herself, as you said, at all. So I sort of really wonder what powers are at play here.
Well, King's blood, possibly.
King's blood. The strongest stuff in all of Westeros.
You don't say.
I don't know. It's definitely a question I have, but we'll see. We're just gonna. All I can say is that we have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I like that. I'm really digging being back in a place in Game of Thrones where it's like, yeah, we don't know.
Me too.
We're genuinely not sure.
So. Great theory. I freaking love the 3-headed dragon theory. I think it's a great one, especially for the show. And plus, to see Jon, Tyrion, and Daenerys together. Oh, fantastic! Oh, fantastic. Okay, so for the theory of the week, I found this theory on BuzzFeed, and it's also on Reddit. You can check it out. It's called "This Mind-Blowing Game of Thrones Theory Might Explain Hodor." And essentially, it gets to, obviously we saw Hodor named Willis, and he was actually eloquent and was able to speak in a way like that made sense to people and understand. He talked to Lyanna about how Benjen trained, and Lyanna was like, you guys can fight each other. It was really sweet. It was sweet to see Willis sort of, be accepted into the Stark family. And then, of course, young Nan is like, no, you're a stable boy. You can't help. Yeah. So two Reddit users actually think that Hodor might have been a warg. And you know how the Raven says, if you stay under too long, you'll drown. So maybe Willis went far beyond the limits of warging, which could have mentally damaged him. Because obviously, you remember Jojen Reed being like, you've got to be careful with warging because you can get stuck and you can forget that you're human. So the theory goes that since Hodor was a stable boy, it's likely that he would have chosen to warg into an animal he knows best, which would be a horse. And because Lyanna was so kind to him and an accomplished rider, it's possible that he could have warged into Lyanna's horse in order to spend more time with her. So obviously Lyanna dies. And another Reddit user theorizes that he might have been in control of the horse when it was slain, causing him with brain damage, or he could have spent too much time warging and ended up with horse-like characteristics, hence why he's comfortable carrying Bran on his back, and why he's afraid of thunder. And it could also explain why Bran is able to warg into him, because if he thinks like an animal, it would be like warging into one.
Oh my God.
Why then would that question leaves, why would Hodor say Hodor only? What if that's the name of Lyanna's horse?
Stop.
Right? I got chills when I read that the first time. I was like, oh my God! It's so cool. So thank you, BuzzFeed. Thank you, Reddit, for putting that together. I never would have thought that in a million years. But so cool. I don't know. I think it's so crazy. It just might be true, but I think I'm going to need, I don't know. I think I like it.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's great. Like, that would be so heartbreaking and so freaking amazing if that was the case. Like, can you imagine that revealed, too, of just, like, you know, like young Lyanna being like, oh, like, you know, Hodor,
come here,
go back
Hodor.
to the stables.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I love it. So anyway, that's a really cool theory. Next, we can drop in on Davos just for a brief little second. Obviously, he was in the episode. A lot. He was in it twice. My main man, just getting more and more screen time. Come on, Liam Cunningham. Obviously, he's important. All I wrote is Davos talk, he's important. In my notes.
I think
that's really all you need to know. He's the one that talks Melisandre into bringing Jon possibly back to life. So he's a really, you know, I think that Davos is still coming. I say it in every episode. I don't need to reiterate. I keep saying it. I'm going to sound like a broken record. But, like, you need him.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line, is that you need him, you know?
Totally.
That's how I feel about Davos. There's nothing else, but I have a segment dedicated to him, so I feel like I need to, like... we got to talk about him.
Just reminding people, by the way, he's great.
By the way, I still love him. He's still my favorite character. So let's move on. I think we've done all we can with this episode so far, except for really give it a beard rating. I really don't think this episode did anything wrong. There was nothing wrong with it. In fact, it just sort of pushed other characters into normalcy. It brought Jon back to life. I just loved it. I loved it.
It was so good.
I've never said that really about a Game of Thrones episode since Hardhome. I don't think I've said that. And that wasn't that long ago, but there were so many things we had to get through to get to Hardhome.
Right.
And it feels like with this, we haven't gone through anything yet. And we got a great episode.
Really good. And, like, I hope that they can maintain that the rest of the season. Like, I hope that this wasn't, like, the episode of the season.
Me too. God, I hope so. Yeah. Next episode looks good, though. I'm excited for it.
Oh, super stoked.
I don't really remember it. I was so after both times I watched it, I was so excited that I sort of didn't pay attention to the coming next time or whatever, the promo.
It was hard to. Like, I kind of forgot there even was one until you were like, it was good. I was like, oh yeah, that totally happened.
I know, it just showed all our favorite characters Arya's gonna get trained by Jack and Hagar. It's gonna be awesome. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for everything. It's all gonna be good. It's gonna be amazing. And I love the new Three-Eyed Raven. I didn't talk about that. I love, what is his name? Three-Eyed Raven actor. What's his name?
I don't know. Just call him Sir...
Max von Sydow, as, and he was in Star Wars. I don't know Star Wars. I'm sorry. But he is the Raven. I really like him as the Three-Eyed Raven. He was obviously the other actor was recast. I also liked seeing Mira. Those were two things I forgot to mention. So, seeing Mira was really cool. But let us continue on with the beard rating. We both agreed on a beard.
We did. We
summed up this episode. Would you like to say it?
I think, do you want to, like, say it at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Three.
Count down. 2.
1. Hodor. I absolutely think this episode was a Hodor. You know, for saying nothing, he is such an important character, and I think we're learning so much more about him. This episode was called Home, and I think it brought everybody back to a good place of feeling at home with the characters and with the way the season is heading. And Hodor was in it, and we learned about him. So of course it's going to be a Hodor beard. I don't know what that equates to. I think that's about like an 8 out of 10. I would say 8.5 out of 10. Last week I would have given a 7, and I'm very pleased overall. And those are high ratings. Like Blackwater to me, I don't know. I think Hardhome. I don't even know what I gave a perfect. I can't remember what I gave a perfect. I think I gave a perfect episode like a while back. I don't remember. It could have been, but whatever. I loved this episode. Bottom line, you loved this episode. We loved this episode.
So good.
And that's really all we have to say about it. So Carly, how can the people find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Chillin555, which is CHILLYN 555, I think.
CHILLYN.
Yes, and then
Beautiful.
555. And then you can just find me too. If you go to Threadless and look at the blog, I'm like the main writer on the blog. Just Carly Hill. And there's a bunch of ways to find me on there. And by a bunch, I think there's like 2. It's like my Twitter and Medium account. But yeah, just go to Threadless and look me up and.
Because she's there doing amazing things.
Aw, thanks, Lid.
And as always, babe, come on. I'm your biggest fan. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Sophia with a PHM Porter. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at YouGotGotPod, P-O-D, just like Podrick. But he has 2 Ds, I think. We only have 1. But thank you guys so much for listening. We loved this episode. I'd love to hear what you thought about this episode, so let us know. And as always, the night is dark.
But full of Davos.
Woo!
Yay!